Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Do indoor pets need flea and tick protection too? You bet your whiskers they do. Because fleas and ticks can find your pet in lots of different ways, like other pets, furniture, and the groomer. Literally everywhere. But don't worry. With Chewy AutoShip, your pet's flea and tick meds get delivered on repeat, so your indoor pet never misses a dose of protection. After all, fleas and ticks never take a cat nap, so your pet's protection shouldn't either. Shop Chewy.com today.
You're like, we had you as I'm not that girl, Elphaba.
You were a wonderful Elphaba.
Yeah, you're wonderful. Oh, that's a better reference. I couldn't come up with a good joke fast enough. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
My name's Quincy.
My name's Kevin.
And this is Sentimental Men.
But keep your thumb away from that skip button.
We're here to talk.
And maybe scream.
About our favorite women in musical theater.
I am so jealous of the fact that you have a shaved head because I spend 60% of every interview like making sure my hair looks okay because I never know if it's gonna end up like in a video.
There have been a couple moments when like I was like making a social acid or something and I'm like, oh, Kevin's hair is like a little wild tonight.
It's a little, yeah. But this
is the first one I've done with no mustache.
Yes, new era.
Which like, guys, I'm sorry that the now key art for our podcast isn't up to date.
Neither of us look anything like that at this point.
Let's introduce today's guest, and then I have a fun story to tell.
Okay. I feel like you should do it because this is your Jenna Lee Green. There's been a real special energy for you.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, that's true. She's one of my personal favorites.
I mean, me too. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. She's one of my personal favorites and one that we both agree on that I don't think we talk about enough in the Wicked fandom, and I don't understand why. We did talk about her in our pilot episode, though.
We sure did. There's your first clue, children.
This guest was on Fox's Mad TV from 2003 to 2009, and then off and on in the years following. Made her Broadway debut in Martin Short, Fame Becomes Me.
Love it.
Starred in the iconic movies Meet the Spartans and Disaster Movie, which I say iconic because I feel like they really defined my like middle school era.
Oh yeah, that whole genre of like spoof movies
kind of came and went, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like we don't get those anymore.
Yeah.
We had like 4 a year in like our middle school, high school years. Yeah.
Then she went on to star in Roundabout Theater Company's The People in the Picture. Shout out to Roundabout Theater Company. And is also a co-host on the podcast, The Neighborhood Listen. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, we're talking to Nicole Parker.
Oh, we're talking to Nicole Parker.
I am so excited.
I'm really excited too. I love her podcast, The Neighborhood Listen. It is so funny. If you don't listen to it, you definitely should, because I feel like everybody listening to our podcast is very familiar with her as a singer and an Elphaba and a theater queen. But her podcast is such a good showcase for her skills as a sketch queen and an improv artist. She has parallel careers, mama.
Funny, I have not seen Nicole as Elphaba, but I saw her live in concert in Honolulu, Hawaii, at a Wicked Divas concert.
Oh my God.
Do you remember those? Long story, I was a co-chair on, there's no carnivals really in Hawaii, so the 2 private schools on my island would put on a huge, like, they called it fairs every year, and it was like...
Like at the end of Greece?
Actually, yeah, that was like my high school, and it was a big deal because like it was the only like carnival situation we would get in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I was on the board of my fair, and when you're on the board, you're like there all weekend because you're making sure everything's running and stuff. Yeah. But that weekend... happened to be the Wicked Divas concert with Nicole Parker.
Happened to be. Cut to 2 months earlier. Quincy's like, what if we did it on...
Also happened to be Shoshana Bean was performing at some high school like auditorium in Hawaii.
Unrelated.
The day before. Unrelated. It was just Shoshana Bean and Nicole Parker were both there. Who knew I was getting so much Wicked content live in Hawaii?
Yeah.
But so Saturday night, I ditched the fair to go see Shoshana Bean. And then Sunday night, I had to be like, guys, I'm leaving again to go see a Wicked Divas concert with Nicole Parker. And my friends were just like, what's going on? What is this concert that I don't know about? And I was like, no, you guys don't get it. You don't get it.
You don't get it. You don't get it. It's a way of life.
And it felt so mature. I was like, I'm going to pop out, go to this concert, and then I'll come back to the fair.
Oh, I bet you were feeling your oats. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, fellow board members, but I have a prior commitment. on this evening.
Yeah, and then it was like just really a magical, like the fact that I got to see Shoshana Bean one night and Nicole Parker the next night is truly amazing.
That is really cool, especially because I know that you were not, you did not have access to as many experiences like that living.
I know, here's me talking about how I don't have access to theater, and then also I saw Shoshana and Nicole. Although, fun fact, I've also seen Lea Salonga in Hawaii. I've seen Sutton Foster in Hawaii. So maybe there is access there.
There's access to concerts there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of have a fun Stuck on SJB. I have a fun little spin on Stuck on SJB for us today. Okay, so we've been doing this bit, Stuck on SJB, for I don't know how many episodes at this point. What is this, 15? Episode 15? 15 episodes. And we have failed to bring up falsettos. So I feel like this, our second to last episode in season 1 proper, now is the time to talk about falsettos. But here's what I want to preface our falsettos discussion with. I personally am a little bugged that I'm Breaking Down seems to be like I'm Breaking Down was like the press performance number. It's like the number that we like associate with Stephanie J. Block's performance in falsettos. It's brilliant. It is like a brilliant
peak musical theater.
Peak.
It's gorgeous.
However, I feel like that song has stolen all the thunder from the other moments in Stephanie's performance. So here's what I want to do. I don't want to talk about I'm Breaking Down. It's phenomenal, fantastic vocals there, acting there, comedy masterclass, amazing. I want to go through and give you 3 of my like niche vocal moments from the show. I just want to say on the record that SJB deserves a Tony for that performance.
In my heart, she has it.
First moment is in the song Come to My House. She's calling Brandon Uranowitz on the phone. Dr. Mandel, vis-a-vis what Marvin did, or rather, you must exercise a devil. Mm-hmm. Ooh! Exercise tingles down my spine.
The
musicality. Next one. And I Never Wanted to Love You. Oh, This is good, because you love to talk about technique. I feel like we can really see her vocal technique in this one line. I'm everything he wanted. It's time we put it all together. Our hands were tied. My father cried, you marry, we marry. And you can like, you can see the like training and the way that she's like flipping, and she's choosing not to give it a full belt, which I love because would have not been right in the moment.
Yes, and I also love in that moment that is such a long, wordy phrase, and it is all just the intention is so clear, and it's like there's a beginning, a middle, and end to it, both like grammatically and musically. Mm-hmm. Mwah, mwah. It's extraordinary.
Fantastic. Third and final moment that I want to bring up, Day in Falsetto Land. When she comes out in the leotard. Is that a leotard?
Yes.
The leotard, the tights. Marvin's back with Wizard. And the little dance. It's phenomenal.
It's so good. Remember at the Tonys when she had the Ariana ponytail?
Mm-hmm. Do I remember? And then a little as a final send-off to this falsettos talk on Stephanie J. Block, Holding to the Ground is the song that we should be hyping up. Like, I love I'm Breaking Down, but Holding to the Ground is the moment.
It's the moment.
Like, she should have been out around town singing that.
She should have been on The View making everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I would love to watch Joy Behar watch.
Holding to the Ground, too.
A single tear runs down each of their cheeks.
But yeah, I feel like we need to talk about falsettos.
What I will add to your falsettos story is that falsettos was the very first time that I saw Stephanie live.
Also me.
Yeah, so that was like a big moment for me, and a big part of it was like I was so excited to finally be seeing her and to be seeing her doing something so exquisitely.
In such a role.
Exceeded my expectations, which were already set exponentially higher than they should have been.
Yeah. Stephanie J. Block was brilliant in falsettos. I loved that revival of falsettos.
I did too. Oh, God, it was so good.
It was so good. And what's funny is the first time I saw it, I left the show being like, okay, that was like fine. And then like the next week, I started listening to, it was before that cast recording was out. I was listening to the original cast recording. And I just started like, I noticed I was listening to it like non-stop all day. And then I was like, oh my God, I need to go back because I think I'm obsessed with this now. And then I went back and I was like sobbing. And I was I guess I wasn't in the mood the first time.
I will say that show is, as much as I do love it, it is not one that I can just like revisit willy-nilly. It's like I have to be in a place for that show.
You have to be in the proper headspace.
Crammed between strangers at the Neil Simon was not necessarily the place to be, but
That was Cher's show. We saw falsettos at
the Walter Kerr.
The Walter Kerr, because the seating is so tight. The legroom,
It's hard for us too because we're tall, Quincy.
I know, the plight.
Sorry to brag about it, but
Maybe that's what they're doing right now during the shutdown, is they're renovating all the theaters. So there's going to be so much more legroom when we go back.
oh my God. But then prices would be so high.
And if we think that they're doing anything in those theaters right now. All right, let's get to Nicole.
This is good.
I was going to say, I feel like I have an affinity for you because I grew up in Hawaii.
Oh, awesome.
And it was announced that the Wicked tour was going to come to Hawaii. And when it was announced, you were like the current lead. And so I was like, oh, Nicole Parker's my Elphaba. That's incredible. I was doing all the YouTube, searching all this stuff. And then you left.
So sorry.
But it's okay that you left because I saw you in the Wicked Divas concert.
Oh my God. You know, that really was a twist ending. It did have a happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to apologize as much to you now.
Because you left the tour right before Hawaii, right?
I did. I believe there was one city before that. I feel like Seattle was right before that.
Okay.
And I was debating it. And it's kind of like, it was a stupid choice. Well, I'm glad you saw the concert.
I did. And I'm glad I got to see you in the concert.
You saw a fresher me because it's much easier to sing Defying Gravity like with legs that walk like across the stage and not being green and not being exhausted.
And did you sing Defying Gravity that night? I still have the audio.
Oh, God bless. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But we start every interview by asking, how did Wicked the Musical come into your life as a person?
I believe that I was still living in Amsterdam, and I knew that the show was happening, but I just didn't hear the music for the longest time. And I remember I left Amsterdam and was with my friend Brent in New York. I'd like just moved there, was staying on my friend's couch, and he was playing me like all the latest soundtracks, right? He was playing me Eden singing in Brooklyn. He was playing me Wicked. And I was like, what happened since I left? Everyone's going, ah! Like, I was like, that's not what was happening when I left the country. Like, oh my God, I have to sing like this now. Like, and I know a lot of girls have said this, but I was also one of the Elphabas that was a soprano and trained like classically when I was, in high school and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which does build a foundation, which is great.
We love it.
But I just was like, wow, things have ratcheted up a notch. It's it's escalated quickly since I left. So I knew of it, but hadn't heard it. And then I was doing a little musical in LA, and the director of it was playing. I think he actually like bought me the CD or the book. He was like, you should read this book and you should play this part and you should listen to it. And I was like, I listened to it. I just thought that's for someone else. Like that's ridiculous. That's it.
But so were you belting already? Like, were you known as a beltress?
Oh, yes. And also was in college, weirdly. There was that. Me and Elizabeth Stanley went to college together.
Love that.
My dear friend Elizabeth Stanley. And it was like we both were experimenting with belting in college. It was like, I think I might try belting,
That's so funny.
But yes, everything that I did ended up being very much in that world. And the musical I was doing at the time was very belty. Anyways, the point is, at the time, there was already the early myth around how hard this role was and how dangerous it was vocally. And so it just kind of scared me. And then I got this other job on Broadway, the Martin Short Show, Fame Becomes Me. And ironically, there was a spoof of Wicked in the show, which, is the joke that Marty dies and he wants to imagine his funeral and maybe top beltresses of the community would sing. And yeah, Mark Shaman wrote this very funny Defying Gravity-esque song. And I remember when Julia Murney, who's now a great friend, and I know she did your show.
She talked about you.
Oh, she did. Well, I'm going to talk about her. What do you think about that? She came to see the show and I was like mortified. I was like, oh my God, that's an actual Elphaba. I was like, oh God, she saw me do a parody. It was just so, I was very much like, but Bernie Telsey cast both shows. And there was one time, I don't know, we were doing a put in for maybe a standby and we were doing the song and Bernie was in the audience for whatever reason. He was like, you should audition for the real thing. I was like, I just didn't really take it seriously.
Yeah.
And at the time, here's what's crazy. this is terrible. I still hadn't seen the show. It just didn't work out because like I went right from I was in New York for a little bit, but then I moved to LA to do Mad TV, and it just wasn't in LA for a while.
Yeah.
Until the sit-down production of around 2008, I think
Yeah.
it was. I just hadn't seen it because this was like 2006.
Okay.
So I wasn't until I went to see it. I saw Anna Gasteyer play it in Chicago. I was seeing her do it that made me really feel like, oh, wait, I can do it because she's like me. You know, she has a background in improv and in sketch, and but she also likes to sing. And of course, she played it. She played the humor of Elphaba, but I love how darkly funny she is. And of course, uses humor, as many misfits do, to sort of make the joke first before any of you do. It's what she does the second she opens her mouth in the first scene. You know, it makes all the jokes before they do.
Right.
And so right away I was like, oh, you know, seeing her do this, I feel like I could do this.
But that's interesting because I feel like you talk about how you didn't necessarily think that it was a part for you until you had seen Anna Gasteyer do it. But you grew up as like a theater kid. So was it ever like I want to play it in the back of your mind?
Yes. I think it was the kind of thing where it's like, well, gosh, I just don't know that I could do that. I would love to. I'm not an idiot. I realize that it's a real good part. Yeah. But it seemed so huge. You know, it's hard to wrap your head around it. It felt scary. Like there was, I don't know, especially earlier on, there was just this, well, I mean, there still is, but especially early on, there's a lore around it. And then after that, I became obsessed. Like after that, it was, I'm singing it in the shower. I'm singing it in my car. I'm looking up, you know, anything I can at work, because I really never thought it was a reality. So I kind of dove too deep as if I was a super fan. Unfortunately, learned a lot about the fan culture.
Well, let's talk about that, because so you kind of turned into a fan before you were like in the show.
Definitely. Because it felt so far away from me. And that's weird because I'd already done the Martin Short show. It was very strange to have become a fan. And then I don't know when it was. I guess it would have been 2008, the summer of 2008, when they actually were in LA and they said, you know, come in. I was like on a houseboat trip. So I was like on a jet ski in the middle of like the water bobbing up and down, like checking my messages. I was like, what? Elphaba, I gotta get home. You know, it was ridiculous.
Wait, yeah. So let's walk us through your audition process.
It's actually not I know some are so long and involved, and mine was not instant, but it was just surprising. That's all I can say about my experience, was surprising. Yeah, so I left the houseboat trip. And I had a good friend from high school was the sort of the moderator, or like the monitor inside. And that was really kind of fun because it was just nice to see a friendly face because I was pretty nervous. But I think there's something different to auditioning, not like in New York City, right? Anytime you audition in LA for a musical, it's very, very weird. It's like, for me, because at this point I had lived in LA for so long, flying to New York, sleeping on someone's couch or trying to stay in a hotel room and then getting ready. And then it all feels much more, this time I got up in my own home. I just drove instead of worried about the subway, you know? So I think that helped. I was just a little relaxed. I did the Wizard and I in like 2 scenes and Defying Gravity. And I felt like it went great. And at the time, I knew that they were starting a San Francisco sit down, I think. And I knew that they were starting a second national tour. And I truly was like, this will be great. I know how it works. I know that there's a farm system. You do understudy, standby, then you maybe do the tour. So
it wasn't made clear to you like what you were going in for?
Oh, no. And the thing is, it never is. Right. Well, maybe it is. To me, it wasn't. But I think a lot of times it just depends on the slots that are available, right? At this time, there were many available. And I never imagined anything but, oh, God, it'd be so fun to get the understudy and then work your way up. Because I knew I was leaving Mad TV and I was like, this is great. I'll just go on the road or I'll do whatever. If I could even just get the understudy part, that'd be so cool. Because I know that's how it's done.
Until you, Nicole.
I would definitely like to do it the other way around if I had my choice. But it was a shock. It was a shock. It really was. I don't say that as a brag. I say that with terror. Like, oh my God, wait, what? Because so I auditioned in August. My friend texted me from the room. He was like, you did really good. I was like, oh, great. Okay. And then there was just nothing until around October. And by October, I was doing a little part in this movie, Funny People, with Seth Rogen and Adam Sandler by Judd Apatow. Please don't look it up. It's what I do is very embarrassing in it. Anyways, it's a long story. The point is, the night before my callback in New York, I was in a pool, like in my underwear with Seth Rogen at a movie set in Malibu at some house. And it's like the minutes were just ticking away. And I'm like rehearsing Defying Gravity in the scenes in my little tiny trailer. And I'm telling the hair and makeup people, like, I'm going to New York to audition for Broadway.
Broadway's calling.
And they're like, that's so exciting. And I'm just thinking, this is ridiculous that this is how it's happening because you want to feel like prepared. I was taking a red eye, Right. So we shot so late. was so cold and so tired the whole night. And so I flew at night. And the thing is, I got there, they picked me up, I go to a hotel, I would run upstairs with the thought that I would have some time to rest. And I look, they're sending a car. I have like 10 minutes. I'm like, and at that point, I know a lot of girls had said it almost helps to be either, not that you don't care, but for me, it was being distracted and also just giving up control that I laughed to myself. I was like, well, you know what? I can't expect anything more of myself right now. This is ridiculous. I haven't slept. You know, they know that I took a red eye. I don't even have time to warm up. But that was just one of those adrenaline auditions because it was just, you know, it was laughable. I was like, this is not how I would like to prepare for an Elphaba audition. And so I was there. It was Stephen Remus. It was Joe Montello. And I did Wizard and I and like a scene. And then he said, thank you. And I don't know what possessed me, but I honestly, and I wasn't trying to be bossy. I just said, oh, no defying gravity. Like I was shocked. I was like, I just flew thousands of miles. And this is like the shot of all shots. I'm not going to sing defying. This might be the only time I get to sing defying gravity in a fancy setting. It just seemed crazy to me that they would, you know, and it's not like I thought it would make or break. I was just like, oh, I want to do all the things that I was told I was supposed to do.
Right.
Which again, I just don't think I was thinking. It just came out of my mouth, you know, and as if like it had never occurred to him. Joe went, oh yeah, let's hear that one. I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, the big one. Sure. Yeah.
Like, oh, that's right.
And was this your first major Broadway musical audition? Or had you gone in for like leading musical roles?
It's a good question. No, there had been a few others. I remember, and I did several red eyes because I was always coming from LA.
Yeah.
So you were gunning for Broadway.
I definitely knew I wanted to do that again after doing Fame Becomes Me. I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, after that, I tried out, like audition for 9 to 5, as much as I could. I flew out there and, you know, I would do okay and I'd make it to a certain point, but I understood. It's like, well, I'm dividing my life right now and I don't live in New York and I understand it's best to be in the city. And I just know that had been the choice I made, you know, that I want to do two things at the same time.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think it was like a week. Yes, I definitely will never forget when they called me and were like, we have good news. And I was just like, oh, San Francisco, Broadway. I was like, come again? I was like, no, well, there must be some mistake because that's too much. I was proud of myself. I was like, wow, I must have did good enough. You know, I must have been good. I guess I did a great job. There was a moment of like, wow. So it was thrilling, you know, because it was such a surprise, right?
Yeah.
It was just like, oh my God, what? And then it was like, oh my God, what? That's basically how it went, you know? And I think it was also because of the fact that everyone had been used to how it had worked. People were like, whoa, oh, you must be good. And I was like, what? Oh, why? Because this has never been done before. Oh, shit. Like it was, you know, their reaction scared me. I was like, well, I don't know if I am good enough.
Did you know that you were the first one or did people communicate that to you?
Yes, because, you know, I had looked it up and I knew too much. I was the witch who knew too much. It really backfired on me.
But that's got to add to the pressure, like knowing the fan culture of it all.
Oh, ridiculous. Like, I could go back in time and be like, stop looking up anything. Stop right now. I can't tell you why, but just stop. Please stop. And the thing is, I would have found out anyway because I did get told this at the time because it was still, there was no Hamilton, there was no Book of Mormon, this was one of the big, and people did say to me early on, oh, I wanted so-and-so and I'm getting used to you, but this was a disappointment in this, you know, and I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for even fan letters to say that because you think those are safe to open.
Right.
You know?
Really?
And it's like, I guess people are talking about, okay.
Well, and it's also like a perfect kind of storm of you're the first woman to do it without having done it prior. And you also...
Ever. Yeah,
and you like also came from TV, quote unquote. So it's
Which is not a thing. We're not going to call Mad TV TV. It's fine. There's no love lost there. And I'm not proud of a lot of things that went on. Let me just say. There's just a lot of things. When you look back at it, I mean, God, I'll just say it here. I was like, Britney Spears stuff. It's like, oh man, some of that stuff was, there's so many things. I'm like, no, I mean, there's like no excuse for it. Anyways, we're going to get off on a tangent. Yeah. But actually, it kind of ties into it because it's interesting having been then in a position where you get criticism that you're aware of. I'd never had that before.
Yeah.
It gives you immediately more empathy in the way that you look at people, and the way that you look at people in this industry, the way that you look at other artists, you know, like it changed the way I watched shows, live shows, like where sometimes, you know, it seems like someone's struggling, you know, some people might react like, oh, this is such a, and I just lean in and go, what's going on? She must be working through something. Is she okay? Does she need something? You become very empathetic. doing Elphaba, I think. But yes, quote unquote, yes. Who the hell was I? Which is funny because I was like, I did Broadway a couple years ago. You guys, I danced. I was such a nerd. People made so much musicals were cool when I was into them.
Yeah.
I didn't go to football games at college because I stayed in the laundry room to sing Aladdin with my friend because the acoustics were great and no one was there to bother us. Like, that's me.
Did you feel like you had something to prove because that perception was kind of out there?
Yes, but not until I got there. Like, not until...
Right.
I mean, I was intimidated before I got there, sure, but I was still mostly excited. I was like, this will be okay, right? Right? Anyone? Dr. Dillman? And also, I will say there were some people, even involved... People there are amazing. They're just amazing, amazing people.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they meant anything when this was said to me, but it was like, oh, we're so surprised, you were so prepared and you showed up and you know your lines. I'm like, again, I'm a theater nerd. Like, this is... Because they would pretend I'm for TV. I'm like, I'm not. That was an accident. I mean, it's not like I didn't want to do comedy as well, but that was an accident.
Right,
it was so many of these things just seem like getting off on Broadway seemed like an accident too. And some people thought it was. No, but we'll get to the tour. The tour was just such a lovely, beautiful, healing bookend, and a finishing of the chapter for me. But it's not like Broadway was all horrible. The cast was incredible. I met one of my best friends, Ali Mazi. We grew up 15 minutes from each other. I'm one of those Orange County Elphabas. It's like Stephanie Block and Eden Espinosa and Ali and Aaron Mackey and me and something in the water.
Yeah.
And the experience was, amazing, and meeting fans and receiving letters that are just so heartfelt in what the character means to them and all of that. I don't mean to diminish that by talking about my feelings.
No, of course.
But it's also no joke just in terms of the pressure of it and the uniquely strange situation that I found myself in. At the time, it was just such a record scratch. Like, what? For people who were used to it and were paying attention. But I just didn't. There's no way to step on that stage and be what everyone needs you to be. And that is a lot of pressure because at the time I'm like, I know people waited a year for these tickets. I know that they have... So that's incredible pressure. But you don't want to walk on a stage as a gigantic singing apology, And also I always say it's like you're walking across the stage with like the 7 other Elphabas behind you, and they're watching how you, and they would tell you how you use your suitcase differently than so-and-so, or you would do a riff that was like so. You're walking in literally people's shoes.
Being somebody whose brain is attuned to impersonations, did any of that affect you while you were learning the show?
No, none of those people I could ever hope to sound. They're so, for me, they became actual living legends to me. So, I think I've met almost I've actually never met Adina, which is kind of weird, but everyone else I know pretty well, But yeah, to me, I just revered them. I knew I couldn't try. And I really, really wanted to do my own version. And I had a very clear idea in my head of what I wanted to do. So I didn't worry about that because I just was like, I can't be them,
Right.
I didn't know how much I was going to be, people were going to want me to be them or were going to compare me to them quite as much as they did. And I understand it. And I understand the love for the show, and I understand they feel so close to it. That's why they feel like they can tell you anything, That's why I did that sketch, the Elphaba,
Oh my God, it's so good.
The press conference, because I also thought, athletes get paid billions of dollars, which maybe makes it easier, but they still have to answer some really harsh questions after such defeat, and we don't have wins and lose, there's no score at the end of a show, although I'm sure some fans would keep scoring.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some.
But as an actor, you of course give yourself a grade, and you count shows as wins and losses. And it would be the one thing that would make me kind of feel better at the end of the night. I'm like, well, at least I don't have to go give a press conference for 20 minutes and ask why I screwed up the end of that song, or
Yeah.
Do you get to a point in your run though where you're able to kind of drown that out, or is that therapy after you finish your contract?
Yeah, but I honestly think it was easier to do it on tour than on Broadway.
Okay.
Honestly, at the time that I was there, it still just felt very intense. It felt the pressure felt very high. Now, near the end, I'd say, I felt like I knew my show and I knew what I was doing for me. But when I left, in my head, I was like, I gotta do that again. Because I was like, I'm not finished.
Yeah.
So you knew the book wasn't closed?
Oh, I definitely knew the book wasn't closed. Yes, for sure.
Tell us about going from Broadway to tour, because that's kind of the opposite journey that anyone before you had taken.
Yes, it is. And the journey from tour to Broadway is what I recommend.
Right. What did you feel you had left to do that you were kind of like, oh, I got to do this again?
First of all, listen, I'll just tell you, it sums it up in what Allie said to me, because she was doing the tour at the time, and had been talking, and we've been doing some concerts together, and she was like, I think I know the Elfie's leaving. She's like, we should, just ask if you could do it again. See if maybe that's, have them ask. And she's like, but this time, buddy, you gotta have fun.
First of all, your Ali Mozzie impersonation
was spot on.
Hey, thanks. And I became like a different person. All of a sudden, like 40% more of me came back, and people were like, "Oh, this is who you are." I'm like, "Yeah, that can be fun." Not just like walking around all the time like, "Music and I was not good today." No. I was like, "Well, that's not me. I don't want to be like that." So Ali summed it up perfectly, which was like, partially it was to enjoy the actual ride of doing it. Mm-hmm. But also to throw away all that caring, because that's what I knew that's what I can hear in my voice. I'm like, she sounds scared, like, and I also had a different voice coach at that point, and we kind of changed my voice and opened up a whole lot of extra things, and that was happening prior to it, and I was like, oh man, I love to get back into that stuff and try it again.
Yeah, because you were taking options on tour.
my tour experience is so different from Broadway. There's like, it was for me, and it was for friends and family who could come see it that couldn't see it, and for people in towns who are so happy for it to come to their stage and their theater, and that the crowds are amazing. Not that they aren't in New York, but there's a different energy, Right. And while the tour was hard in its own way, it's very hard to like move every 4 weeks, and you just think, oh, how am I going to, because your dresser doesn't move with you, and that's a whole thing to train the dresser for Elphaba, because it's like a major job.
Ooh.
And you just think, oh, I loved my dresser from the last town, I can't change it. And then that same 4 weeks later, you're like, no, but I love this. And I love this. And then the sound is dialed in, and I've got the climate dialed in, and I've got the, it's just constantly, and I was older. I was 3 years older, and it really was like, I felt like it was like the ensemble doing like high kicks in the hallway, and I was like, Mama needs to sleep. I can't stay out with you guys. And then like my humidifier and my 15 like vitamins, and and so yeah, the tour was just, it was just pure joy.
Okay, wait, so you reached out to ask to go back on the tour?
Yeah, I mean, not me personally. I mean, it was like my people asked. We just looked into it. Mm-hmm. And I feel very lucky. I was going to maybe extend in New York. And, the option was there too, which I, again, felt, especially at the end of that journey, I was like, okay, thank God. Like, they were happy with what I did.
It's got to feel validating.
It was validating. But it was like, okay, I really think I need to just go lay down, like go in a tiny corner for like a couple months and just get myself back. But, and Joe was great. He was like, you're welcome. He made me feel very welcome here, and was like, hopefully down the road. I think the reason why, that's why I felt okay asking, was because that's kind of how he had left it. Like, you could
Got it.
Maybe hopefully come back, or we were happy with what you did.
Okay, so before we move into No Good Deed.
Yes.
Kevin and I like to play a game with each of our Elphabas, where we have a theory that each Elphaba...
Oh, yes. I feel like I listened to you guys
thank
to
you.
understand what this podcast is about. Go ahead.
Resonates with one of the 3 big songs, Wizard and I, Defying Gravity, or No Good Deed, and that can ultimately mean whatever you want it to mean. I like to think that it means like it informs that person's Elphaba, like that song and that energy informs their character. Nice. We should let you know that we call this game Elpha Bowl, and we played it in our pilot episode, and we did pull your name out of a bowl, and we both chose what we thought you were. So I'm interested to see if it lines up.
Oh. Well, it's a 2-parter, because I think on Broadway I was a Defying Gravity Elphaba, and on tour I was a No Good Deed Elphaba.
I love that journey for you.
I disappointed you.
No, I'm pretty sure I said you were Defying Gravity Elphaba.
I think we agreed. Right? Yeah.
Oh, yay. Well, that's fun.
I love having just heard your whole mental journey with the show. It really tracks that you were first a Defying Gravity.
I hope you don't feel pressured to say No Good Deed, because we have you on for the No Good Deed episode.
I don't feel... no, I'm not pressured about that.
Okay.
It's such a badass song, and you just want to feel like it kicked its ass, Uh-huh. And I never quite felt like that. And then on tour, I just had so much fun with it, and loved it. Loved that song. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed No Good Deed. And also, like, I think Jackie was mentioning this because I saw on your Instagram that, yes, the run.
A lot of the Elphabas have mentioned the, like, No Good Deed run. Can you be the Elphaba to walk us through on Broadway, what is happening from the time you run off after the catfight scene to the time you come up through the trapdoor?
Yeah, it's actually very similar to Defying Gravity. It's basically the same run.
Okay.
So you run off, the dresser is waiting like someone on the side of a marathon, with like your water. And yes, you run around upstage left where there's this incredibly steep Amsterdam staircase, and you go down, and then it is this sort of bizarre pattern of like down and then to the left and then to the right and then another bit to the left, and then you truly run through the orchestra, hi, and they're just playing. And then for Defying Gravity, it's way over to the left where you wait. But for No Good Deed, it's right by the conductor on Broadway, if I remember correctly.
That would make sense, yeah.
What the amazing part about it is, like, when you're being told, like, this is, like, your job, all these times, and you're like, wow, this is my job. I'm getting locked into a closet, and there's, like, a man in silver next. This is my job. I'm an adult. This is my job. And that's when the times, because you have to pick your skirt up underneath your arm and bunch it up so that it doesn't get caught on anything going up on the trapdoor.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to hunch over because there's really no room for you to stand up fully, right? Because to wait.
Are you also out of breath too while you're hunching?
Correct. So it looks something like, you're running, you're bunching the thing, and then just that, and then
Yeah.
Whereas on tour, it's the easiest thing in the world. Smoke a cigarette. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like, what? It could have been like that the whole time?
And going off of your the video you have of the kind of post-show, post-game interview, some guests say that No Good Deed can feel like a victory lap when you've had a really great show, and it can feel like a final stretch when it's not been so great a show. Can you talk to that at all?
Oh, that's so true. I mean, Elphaba prepares you for a lot in life. The gift is it makes a lot of things easier. Like, all the times in my life I've been like, well, it's not No Good Deed, like on a second show day.
Because you've done Funny Girl too.
I did do Funny Girl, I don't know, 3 years after I did the tour. And it was absolutely still not as hard. Because the difference is you get to be funny. You get to have these lighter moments. It's not just everyone on stage going, and like you're not yelling the whole time or crying or angry or, and that, it takes a toll on you. That takes a toll too. It's just in terms of what you're showing up to do and what you're gearing yourself up to do. And doing this, living in a pandemic, being the primary caretaker of a toddler, I honestly equate it to a 2-show day of Elphaba, because I wake up in the morning, every part of me hurts. It's the exact same thing. And I'm like, I can't possibly, the way I would wake up on tour and just be like, oh my God, how am I going to be standing on stage green singing Wizard and I in like 3 hours? How is that going to happen? And it's the same thing of like, how am I going to watch him for like 5 hours until he falls asleep? And so like the morning is Wizard and I, and then he goes on the nap, and that's kind of like, I'm not that girl. I got my like break, and then, he wakes up, and then it's kind of exciting and busy, and it's Defying Gravity, and then but evening is feeding him, and it's just, he's tired, and it's stressful, and it's No Good Deed, and sometimes No Good Deed lasts an hour. It's a very long No Good Deed. And then there's a lovely calm that always comes over the theater in For Good. It's my favorite. Everyone's kind of sitting backstage. A couple dressers are doing things. That's when some people have conversations. The one time they catch up with that one person, you can just feel the whole theater go. And it's just, it feels so good. It's just like a nice stretch. And that's when I'm like reading stories to him, and then like the last thing I have to do is clean up the bathtub. And I'm like, that's just getting my Elphaba black lingerie, for just popping up and going, Fiero. So really like No Good Deed absolutely falls into that section of, oh God, here we go. Like, here we go. And yes, it can be such a slog. And then when you are having like a kick-ass night, it's like, like, and it does feel late in the game, and it does feel like a bridge too far sometimes. You're like, oh my God, this again. In fact, the circular, this is how much it's ingrained in my head, is that the circular, there's 4, I don't know what they call them. They call them stovetops, I think.
I know what you're talking about. On the stage.
It's like how you know where to stand for the fan and everything. Yeah. And there's things on our street out front that look similar to that. And my husband and I refer to them as the No Good Deed potholes. And if I see shapes like that, I'm just like, oh God, my cape, I have to get it. It's so,
triggered.
It's so triggered. And because that song, a lot of times it is just get to A, get to point B, you're just getting to these places. Mm-hmm. I can share you what my No Good Deed story is when things go wrong.
Please.
I do my whole run. I'm truly crouching, and just very calmly, the dresser's like, the trapdoor is stuck. So, and we've never you discuss what happens in Defying Gravity
I was gonna
when
say.
you're not going to fly. no one discussed what happens when you're not going to rise in No Good Deed. That's,
Oh my God.
And so they were so calm. She's like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk down the stairs. And now, by the way, the song has already started.
Yeah.
So I should already be doing Fierro. So now the stage is full of smoke, and the monkeys are probably like, I don't know, like improvising, giving you some monkey modern dance realness. And they're like, well, we're going to walk over to the Defying Gravity stairs. And so meanwhile, Dominic really slowed down the tempo of it to sort of stretch.
Yeah.
And as I'm going up, they're like, oh, the trapdoor just opened, so just stay upstage.
Oh my God.
The thing is, there's these red lights that let you know, like, once those disappeared, that the trapdoor is closed and you can move forward. But the stage was filled with smoke. And I'm just up there and, I've got no book and just, I don't know. I don't have any memory in my brain of what happened when I ran up there. I think I've been trying to keep in my head with what he was playing where we were at in the song.
Yeah.
And I think I just tried to pick up, but we had to pick back up because it was really like, no good deed goes unpunished, and we keep doing this a little faster, and then finally, I was so nervous to like walk down, but eventually the stage cleared and I had that, but it was funny. And that's especially funny because the thing that's usually going on is if you're like having a tough day or whatever, you'll let the music director know, because there's a lot of communication like that. You're constantly working with the sound guys, and if you have a really great sound engineer, they check in with you every day, which is amazing. They're like, are we good? What do you need today? You need a little extra love. And you'll know that Elphie's having a tough day if it's like the wizard and I, and the musical conductor goes do 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 do, and it's over. You just like push through the end. But in this case, it was way slowed down, and I think we eventually found our way back, probably by the Fierro cry. But that was a new one that I had not experienced before.
Wait, so how did No Good Deed compare vocally to the other two?
Here's the thing, right? It's like, it's either great because you're more warmed up than you'll ever be, but also you might be just too tired
to do.
So yeah, I think that if No Good Deed was the second big song in the show, if it fell where Defying Gravity did, I feel like that's where I was always the most warmed up. You're the most primed. You still got energy,
Yeah.
And it's all about pacing. It's like, well, how much do I want to do in this? How much do I want to give? And it really honestly depends, too, on a 2-show day. It really is. I mean, it's almost like my second act of my first show, my first act of my second show. That was the sweet spot, baby. Like, it was like,
I love
it's
that.
like diminishing returns by the time we get to Saturday night. It's like, that should be the best. But now, I don't think on the outside it was showing that, but in your head, you're just like,
Peter.
Ugh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I think it's just the nature of that it is the last big number. And also it's that thing, right, when you know you only have like 2 miles left to go, and all of a sudden your body's like, no, I can't do it. And maybe something just clicked for me, because you also just find ways your body likes to sing it. You find things that you like to do better, and I think that just happened for me. Vowels change, and that, so that you're not like thinking about one single vowel and one single note for the entire show, which would happen, in the beginning.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh, I didn't nail that. And then you cut to the tour where like I was in Salt Lake City, and we were there for like 6 weeks, and almost everybody had this terrible reaction to just the pollen in the air, and everyone had crud. And it happened to me like later in the run. And there was just one day when I was doing No Good Deed, and we just, out of nowhere, I was like, no good deed will I do. And it just was gone because something just came there. I just went, do, and I would have been apoplectic, on Broadway. I'd been like, oh my God, I did that, and then I got off there and I was like, well, that happened. And the sound guy was like, that was interesting. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. It was not going to happen unless I cleared my throat. And it's become so much less precious. Not to say it's not professional, not to say you still don't care. You manage it like you do anything,
Right.
But it's so interesting hear you talk about like Broadway and tour, and just how you were in a different mental space and a different headspace, and how that just completely changed your experience.
Completely. And listen, like there were times, I rember in Sacramento, I got this terrible cough. I had to be on vocal rest for, I think I missed like the whole last week. It sucked. My husband used to say, I don't know what's worse, is being with you after you've done a show that you thought you shouldn't have done, or being with you on the couch when the show is happening and you're thinking you should have done it. It's just, it's a lose-lose. Like, I never handled it well. It was like, I never wanted to miss. I never wanted to, that's just not me. That's everyone.
It's a human thing.
You don't want to miss. You don't want to, the decision to call out felt huge every single time. I never got used to it. And for San Diego, which was right after Sacramento, I remember they were like, well, how do you feel like that? Because I was on a lot of antibiotics and all this stuff. Like, how do you feel about doing just like the opening so we can get a review, and like the original, the cast of the tour will be on record as opening there. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And I mean, I barely remember that show. I mean, I remember showing up. My dresser was incredible. I was just like, hi, nice to meet you. I am on a lot of but I am so tired. I am going to just try to get through the show. And I just kind of, I did what I had to do. And then I took like 2 more nights off, and then that was it.
Yeah.
But I remember that was a whole moment of just like, yeah, it's just, that's all mental. It's just like, well, I can.
You did it.
If I didn't feel like I really could vocally do it, I wouldn't have. It was just, uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I was lucky. I really didn't have many things other than one time my neck was the biggest issue. Cause I mean, just the book, everyone has talked about it. It's so unnecessarily heavy. And I mean, this is all said with love. Everybody, I love Wicked. And, everyone at Wicked, I love Wicked.
We all love Wicked.
But it's
and
heavy.
the room is heavy, and there's just a lot of heavy stuff during Defying Gravity, and it just pulled on my neck. And I'd never taken a muscle relaxer before, and I took it that afternoon. I went to a different ENT. I felt fine until I stood up. And by then it was like time to pretty much go, because I was living like across the street from the Gershwin at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not until sometimes you get out on stage and those lights hit you that you're like, whoa. And it was, and the thing is, I didn't even feel like I had control over my actual voice. Like everything was so relaxed. And I just came off stage and I was just like, I think I'm in trouble. I don't feel right. And again, people would keep on saying, oh, you'll have to, go out mid-show sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, that's crazy. That's never going to happen. I don't know a single girl that hasn't happened to.
Sure.
And I'm sure there are some.
Yeah.
And it's a bizarre feeling, and no one really wants to do that. Someone like you tell the stage managers I'm not doing well, they're like, you sound great, No, you're fine.
No, it's good.
And Jenny Denoy, who's a gem of
a
human
legend.
being, a legend. She's literally a legend, and I adore her. And it's so funny because they got her ready in 7 minutes, and I was sexually attracted to my green team because that was like, that's impressive.
My God.
And I actually saw Jenny because she had been called, but I still had to do a couple more scenes. And the reason why I had determined it was time to go was that we were doing the transition in the Oz Dust Ballroom where Elphie and Glinda come out, and we're supposed to run downstage because all the dancers come in. I just started like apparently wandering upstage, and Glinda was like, Allie was like, hey buddy, hey, we're gonna go down here now. And I was like, I need help. I am not well. I'm not well.
Just you drugged up at the Gershwin.
Yeah, I was running down the stairs and I saw Jenny running up the stairs. I'm sorry. She's like, it's okay. It's my job. I just felt so terrible. And I had a friend in the audience and I didn't know this. And she always reminds me of it. I feel so terrible. If I had known that, I would have stuck it out. I would have. But it was not safe, and I was endangering others and myself. Yeah. And it's just.
And you drugged up going up in that cherry picker?
I mean, it was just. But it was weird because the second you're out, you're out. It's like they're on to the next girl, and you're just like sadly wiping off your green in the shower, and the show's still going on. It feels so wrong. But she did say it was funny because, she came on. I was in Popular. I was in the scene looking off stage, and there she is in her outfit being made up, and it's like, Elphaba really got a makeover. She's a different person. And I remember being like, whoa, that's weird. I'm here, and she's there. We're both Elphie. And then we just, ships in the night, just passed. I left, and she entered the show, and what an unbelievable thing that understudies and standbys do, that they just get shot out of a cannon. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicole, this has been so much fun. Thank you for doing this. Where can people find you online to keep up with Nicole Parker?
They can find me. I'm NF Parker Girl 78 on Instagram. Ooh. I have a podcast called The Neighborhood Listen with Paul F. Tompkins. It's on Stitcher or wherever you get your podcasts. It's
funny,
improvised.
Yeah, we love
show. But you guys know it. Okay.
We're fans.
Oh, you guys, that's nice. That's so nice. You just never know who listens to anything, right?
Yeah, we know.
And then I'm NP Redford on Twitter, but I don't hang out on there as much. I like the Instagram.
Instagram is it.
Twitter feels like no good deed on the second show.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole. This has been so great.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And thanks for having me on and keeping theater alive by talking about it and telling stories. It's great. It's a lovely thing.
That's all we can do.
Thank you. You know something that Nicole does in No Good Deed that I love?
Ooh, give it to me.
Is she, so like the infamous goes unpunished. She does that on the word supply too, but instead of flipping it up into the mix, she stays on the belt.
Ooh, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But it's so exciting because that's what you're expecting when she does it the second time. And so then it's tingles when she flips into the head voice.
Ooh, yeah. I loved hearing about her experience on Broadway compared to her experience on tour and just like that whole journey.
Yeah. I'm like, should they always send girls the opposite direction?
Well, that's the thing. Like, she kept talking about how, like, she wished she got to tour first before going to Broadway. But I'm like, honestly, girl, like, no. Because, first of all, she was stellar on Broadway.
Yes.
But then it made her tour experience so much more fun. So I'm like, I love that happened for you.
You know what else I loved, Quincy?
What did you love?
I had never heard somebody kind of, like, group together the Orange County Elphabas as the Orange County Elphabas. And I was like, that's kind of a cute little sorority moment.
And when she said it, I was like, oh my God, yeah, you're right.
You're right. There is quite a few.
I thought it was interesting that when she finished her Broadway contract, she knew that, like, she would be going back at some time. Like, that wasn't it for her, you know?
Oh, yeah. Kind of like she had a vision, almost like a prophecy. She knew.
She knew. That was great, Kevin.
Yeah, gosh, I'm so happy that we got to have Nicole Parker on, not only because her experiences were really great to hear about, but she is kind of from that, like, second stage of Elphaba. And so it was really cool to hear her experience as somebody who kind of straddled the line of, like, this show is new and big and exciting, but also people are starting to get used to this show.
Yeah. And it was interesting to hear her kind of reference that, because I feel like you and I definitely talk about the timelines of Elphabas.
She was in on it.
And like the different eras of Elphabas. But to hear her kind of lump those golden age girls together and then say that she was part of the next wave, I was like, okay, so we all are on the same page about this.
We're all on the same page, yeah. I like ran out to talk to Connor just now between the interview and right now. And he was like, you guys were laughing so much just now.
Very funny, yes, that Nicole Parker.
A funny girl, some might say.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, Nicole Parker. I'm so glad we got to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole.
I think it's time for Kevin's Glinda Corner. Whoa! Whoa.
Kind of going back to what Jackie Burns says about being wicked is being selfish, then maybe like being the good is being selfless. And I don't think that Glinda really, if we're thinking of it in that terms, I don't think Glinda like really earns her stripes as being Glinda the good until this scene, because this is the scene where she tells Elphaba, take this moment, go run, go save yourself. And then she gives up Fiyero too. So she really has like a 1-2 punch of genuinely thinking about other people. Having
to make the like morally correct decision.
This is her defying gravity. But I also think what's interesting about this scene is that it's kind of a nice thing. The whole scene, Fiyero is like, Elphaba run, like go, go, go. And it's when Glinda says, you should go, that Elphaba does it.
Ooh, Kevin.
You know what else, too, I always think about? This is, like, another, like, thing about the book of Wicked, is, like, so Elphaba's, like, running through the cornfield. She's not there to see what happens to Fiyero. And so, like, I always have this vision when the song starts, when I listen to the cast recording, of, like, she's running through the cornfield, and she hears Glinda yelling, and she just, like, stops because she knows something's happening.
Wow, your mind, Kevin.
My mind. Can you? But isn't that like such a good visual? Like she's like in the middle of nowhere. She can't see anything.
And she just knows.
And she just hears her going, Fiyero!
Yeah,
and then she yells it.
I think that's definitely the visual that the like creative team was trying to portray.
Oh, 100%. I don't mean to imply that like that.
No, but it's just like the fact that like it took you telling me that. I've never thought of it in that way. I'm like, she's coming up through the trapdoor. I don't know.
Yeah.
Guys, next week is the final episode of season 1 of Sentimental Men.
Final episode of season 1 proper.
I think you guys have a lot of ad hoc content coming your way, but season 1 proper wraps next week.
Quincy, I'm going to put you on the spot since we're recording this in real time and next week's episode is done already. Do you want to give a little hint as to who the guest is next week?
This guest played Grisabella in Cats.
I almost just spit water all over this microphone. How dare you? I'm hanging up. I'm so mad at you for that.
Next week's episode, really exciting, something different. It's going to be the first of something. on this podcast.
It's going to be the first of something.
I feel like I really just threw you guys for a loop. So have fun.
Okay. Excellent hint giving, Quincy. Everybody who's listening, thanks for listening. Give us a like, give us a rating, give us a subscribe, give us all of that.
Please leave us a review.
Yeah, rate and review. Please. We're begging. We'll see you next week with our first of something Grisabella.
First of something Grisabella.
No more hints. Don't give them 3 hints.
No, we gave a second one, though. I can't remember.
First of something.
Oh,
I said
that
it.
was... Sorry. With our first of something Grisabella. Good night, everybody.
Good night and thank you. You've been listening to Sentimental Men.
This episode was produced, edited, and hosted by Quincy Brown and Kevin Bianchi.
Thanks to Julie DiMarzo for our thrilifying artwork.
And thanks to you for tuning in. You can reach us at sentimentalmenpod@gmail.com.
Or on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SentMenPod. That's SentMenPod.
Till next time, I'm Quincy.
And I'm Kevin. We're both looking amazing.
You have your green light on.
I have a green light on. I am in no good deed today.
I don't know. You have a Wizard and I beanie on.
Disney's Aladdin on Broadway is among the longest running shows in Broadway history. But did you know that it almost never came to be?
We walked out of Seattle thinking, okay, we don't have it. We have a lot of work to do.
But against tremendous odds, in March of 2024, they celebrated 10 years on Broadway.
Disney did a great job because they really took the notes.
Go behind the magic and listen to this never-before-heard story, the magical making of Disney's Aladdin on Broadway. Available everywhere you can get your podcasts.
Why let the leaves fall when you could kick them up? Find your dream car at the L Certified by Lexus Fall Collection sales event, featuring special offers on select pre-owned models. Every L Certified vehicle comes with an unlimited mileage warranty up to 6 years and a complimentary maintenance plan. Click the banner to discover more. Exclusively at your Lexus dealer.
Complimentary maintenance for first 2 scheduled visits. Warranty valid 2 years after expiration of remaining time mileage of 4-year 50,000-mile new vehicle basic warranty. Offers end November 4th.